G'day guys, this is Shim and I'm on The Authentic Life with Kitty
Oh,
Lynne.
no. Hi. Why do you discount the impact you made? I could give you hundreds of excuses. Does this sound familiar? Does this sound like you? Call it back. You know you want to fight. Welcome to The Authentic Life with KL, and I'm your host, Kitty. What is authentic? Let's find out.
Welcome in. Thank you for welcoming in Kitty.
Welcome in. You are also known as the former
original lead singer of Sick Puppies, yes.
That's right. I like to do a little icebreaker on everything. Tell me something, one funny thing about you maybe people don't know.
I love dad jokes.
You love dad jokes.
Do
you have a good dad joke for me?
Yeah, I post them on my, well, actually, you know what? That's probably not something that people wouldn't know about me because I post them on my socials like once every week or two. I've got like a backlog of videos that I post. Like, I just love them. Because I got kids now and I want to embarrass them. So that's what I do. So, but something that people wouldn't know, probably that I'm painfully boring. Like I've met bands, when we're on tour and then when they see me in the dressing room and I'm just sitting there being super chill, reading a book or mostly just resting and taking care of my voice and getting ready for the show. Cause they're like, man, on stage, you're like crazy. And I'm like, well, yeah, where do you think that energy comes from?
Yeah.
Like the only person who can be like that on stage and off stage is Jacoby from Papa Roach, and no one's ever going to touch him. So he doesn't really enter into the equation.
So this month is, I don't know if you're aware, but this month is Suicide Awareness Month.
I am aware.
Suicide awareness, and I love to talk about mental health. I love to help people who are struggling any kind of dark space, whatever that may be. That's something that my group that I work with, I love helping heal, but music is always a catalyst for that for me. Do you have any experience with the mental health with you?
I don't have
someone that you love, or
I don't have experience with mental health issues like clinically diagnosed. Mm-hmm. I get down, I get artistic, which is not the same thing. And I was told very early on when I had a friend of mine who has a son who is dealing with clinical depression. And I was like, yeah, I understand. And he just stopped me. He was like, you do not understand. And like, you need to respect that. This was a long time ago before I understood how serious it was. And so I have my experience has always been that the most valuable thing that I could ever provide to anyone going through that is to shut up and listen. I've usually experienced that. I don't know if that's not a clinical thing. That's not a doctor telling me. I've just found that whenever I give someone the opportunity to feel heard, it seems like they don't get that opportunity much. And I think it might have something to do with the fact that I'm leaving town that night, so there's no accountability, and they can say, well, you know, if you really want to know, here's my dark shit. but I can tell you one story, okay? I can tell you one story that'll probably bring a tear to your eye because it usually does, right? So it's a story, it's Inception, it's a story within a story, okay? And it goes to the concept of what do you value, right? It presents towards the idea of what do you value. And a lot of people think that you need to do lots of things and you need to provide lots of money, or you need to have a big social media following, and your numbers, right? Your value, the things that you think are matter, that's what matters. And it's going to circle back around to the idea of shutting up and listening. So I was at a fancy LA party one time, and our band was popping. And there was lawyers and fancy rock stars around. And there was this fancy lawyer, young guy, you know, mid-20s, really nice suit. And he's like, so you're in a band, is that right? And I said, yeah. He said, oh, so, and I heard you're doing quite well at the moment. I said, yeah. He said, what do you make? And I said, excuse me. He said, well, you know, I just upgraded to this law firm. I'm making $750,000 a year. What do you make? And I was like, oh, and I thought about it for a minute. And everyone else is at the party's being quiet because he's fucking loud. And I said, well, let me put it this way. I was at a show last month in Florida. It's a club, it was packed. I was playing the show. It was 3 or 4 songs in. And in the middle of the crowd, I could see this girl wearing all black hair, black eyeshadow. and she was punching herself in the head while she was listening to my music. She was beating herself. She was in the zone. She was dancing to the music, but she was beating the shit out of herself in the middle of the pit. And I saw this and I didn't know what to do. So we finished the song and I just took off my guitar and I jumped into the pit and I just wrapped my arms around her and I gave her a hug. And I knew that it was the right thing to do because the moment that I gave her a hug and I said, everything's going to be okay, she immediately said, how the fuck would you know? And I was like, yeah, she needs a hug. She needs. And so I just stopped the show for a minute and I walked her over to the merchandise desk where we had a couple of street teamers, a couple of people that come out and they volunteer and help with the show, members of my team, my community that I'm in touch with. And I introduced them to her and I said, hey, I want you guys to hang with this girl and just hang with her for the show. Just, you know, and she was lit drunk, but it was like, just get her a glass of water and hang out next to her for the show and give her a free shirt and whatever. By the end of the show, go down and we're signing t-shirts and I give her a t-shirt, a picture, the whole thing. And I'm like, yo, where are you guys going? I precursed it. I didn't say where. I said, like, you are now a crew. You're all together. Where are you going later tonight? What are you guys going to do? Oh, we're going to go to IHOP and do this and that. I found out the next day from the street team that she had planned to come to our show, walk across the street to the beach and drown herself as soon as we were finished. And so I told this lawyer at the party, that's what I make. I make a difference. What do you make again?
Yeah.
And for me, I've always found that the simplest form of compassion and listening and one step in the right direction is often enough for a lot of people to get started because you know, fear and greed and pain and joy, they're opposites to each other. And when you're so trapped up in your joy, when you're all like, oh my God, everything's amazing, you start to do stupid things and you start to forget that things can go wrong. And when you're trapped up in your pain and your sadness, you start to forget that things can be good. So you just need a little something to break the cycle sometimes. And that for me, I've always found that makes a big difference. And a lot of people nowadays with social media and a lot of kids, younger people are very insecure. And also there's a lot of things where like guys don't want to go and talk to girls because they think they're hitting on them and then they're worried they're going to get back. It's like people don't want to talk to each other. So they can't just reach out and go, hey, how you doing? You okay? What's going on? Need to talk? Or just like, hey, how you doing? And then they can say, well, since you ask, I'm a fucking mess.
Yeah. And that's if they'll actually answer with a truth. Yeah. They're taught so much to say fine.
Yeah.
They're taught so much to say fine. I love that story. I love that story. I think that any of us can make a difference. And I think if more of us were like that, that the world would just be a completely different place. I'm finding more and more, especially on social media, that everyone goes there to escape. And so the things that I talk about online typically are trying to address some of those things that you're talking about, you know, that people just need a safe space to be. You don't have to talk to them. You don't have to fix them necessarily. They just sometimes want you to be.
Yeah.
Do you find a lot of connection with your fans, with them relating to your music? I'm just learning some of your music, so I'm anxious to hear about that.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, okay, I'll give you a good example, okay? Whenever I coach young artists, I have my own coaching program. I'm going to drop it. It's called shimsmasterclass.com, shimsmasterclass.com. So I coach young artists as well. And I started doing this because when I was signed to Capitol Records, they would send their artists on tour with me and say, he seems to be doing really well and it's always good reports. Just go and learn from him because I was theater trained. So when I would talk to these bands, I would say, they would be like, how do I write a hit song? How do I get more followers? And I would ask them, okay, cool. What do you stand for? Which is a fancy way of presenting to an artist the idea of what does your brand represent? But really what you're saying is, what do you stand for? And what you stand for is paired by what you don't stand for. What will you not tolerate? And they would ask me, well, Mr. Smarty Pants, what do you stand for? And I would say, I stand for the ideal that everyone can create the life that they want for themselves, regardless of the circumstances or perceived obstacles. And they would say, what? And I'd say, I stand for the ideal that anyone can create the life that they want for themselves, regardless of the circumstances or perceived obstacles. That's never going to change. That's what I stand for. That's what I represent. That's what I put in my music. So every song that I write comes from that element. So as you listen to my music, Kitty, you're going to hear it and go, oh, that comes from that thing that he said, because it doesn't change, right? And when you have that as the seed, as the genesis for everything that you create, and you stay true to it, if you stay true to it, you can have a long career and you can navigate ups and downs. And I think that that's one of the reasons that people the people who respond to my music respond to it, because they just hear it. And usually after you release a couple of songs like that and they see a couple of shows like that, they can realize, oh, I'm going to get that emotion from this artist. I'm going to get that again and again. And so the industry calls it branding, and the artist should call it their spirit. What do they stand for? And what you don't stand for is anything less. I don't stand for anything that does not support me creating the life that I want for myself. No disrespect, but if you're not here to support me, then you're not for me. So I don't tolerate that. And that's what I think everyone should do. So that's what I represent in my music. And as fans come out to the shows and as people discover my music, I've gotten more DMs than you can count, and more emails, and more people coming up to the show. Like, there's a song of mine with the Puppies called Maybe It's Time to Change. Really general song, really simple. And there was one guy that came up and was like, hey man, because of you, I quit my job and went to Mexico and started a scuba diving instructing course, and it's going really well. So thanks. And I'm like, well, I didn't write the song I wasn't thinking scuba diving, but that's your jam. That's what you use the song for. So I love it when people come up and they say, your song changed my life. And I always say, my song got to be the soundtrack for you changing your life, because you're the one who did all the work. So you should take account of, you should be rewarded for that. But that's what I try to do with all of my music.
My song's actually on our group playlist. And again, I didn't even know that, but it is, because I'm about change and about
Yeah.
taking back everything and not having excuses anymore for not having the life that you want.
Yeah, there really isn't a reason. Usually the reasons that you don't, and it's ironic that we're sitting here and we're doing an interview with a rock and roll lady and a rock and roll guy, and we haven't talked really about the songs much once. We're talking about mental health and positivity and how to use it for making a better life. But that's really what it's all about. And the thing that's hilarious is, it's not hilarious, but it's kind of hilarious once you realize it in your own life, is that once you eliminate all the noise and you strip back some of the negative people, you start to go, oh, this is much simpler than I thought it would be. Like, I just need to create the space and the time to start to pay attention to my health, my mental health, my physical health, my spiritual health, whatever. And then things, they have no choice, but they have to get better, because there's only one direction for it to go when you cut all the dead weight.
Yeah, if you don't
That's one of the things I love about,
yeah,
that's one of the things I love about I Prevail. When I started listening to their music and their message, they're really obviously very hardcore and intense. But if you listen to their lyrics, they're basically saying the exact same thing, but it's just with the attitude of, fuck you if you're going to get in my way. Like every song is the same thing we're talking about, but they're like, okay, you don't want to help, fuck you, and that's it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, good on you guys, good work.
Then that's kind of how it should be when it's all said and done, because you will have so many people that come in and just try to ride on curtails or make you do this or change how you are, and when you really know authentically who you are, then that doesn't happen that way.
I think people like company. I think one of the hardest things to do is to be alone. And usually one of the hardest things to do, one of the reasons that people find it hard to be alone is because they've found a bunch of reasons why they shouldn't like themselves. So then when they're by themselves, they're like, oh, I don't like this. And then when everyone's gone, that's why it's hard to get rid of people. Right? It's hard to be like, well, I'm going to get rid of this friend and this friend. Why? Because I read a book and I heard a podcast that I should distance myself from negative people who are gaslighting me. But then after that, there's no podcast that help you with, hey, maybe you're a shitty person sometimes and you have to deal with that. And maybe it's true. Maybe you're a bit of a bitch, or maybe you're a bit of a dick, and you're insensitive, and your temper is off, and you're like, wow, I don't like being around me sometimes. Well, then now it's time to fix it. But then once you do, and you go, oh, that was actually quite easy. It's actually fairly simple to go, well, if I fix these things, I'll start to attract the nice people
Yes.
because nice people like to be around nice people. And it's really hard for people to accept the fact that if you have shitty friends, people like to hang out with people that are like them. So
Yep.
maybe you're a little shitty. Maybe let's just really cut the BS. And like maybe there are elements of your personality that you need to work on, and then you can attract those things because people who are assholes love to sit around and complain about how everything sucks. And people who are productive and nice like to be around people that talk about being nice and productive.
And
You
they
want those
go. They
people?
don't stop. They
Yeah.
just go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe it's time
So
to level up. Yeah.
yeah, it is. It is. I always say I'm the girl trying to change the world, but I'm really starting with myself because I can't really change the world. I can only show up fully and hope that others can see that
Well,
I'm
that's more than most people do.
it's true. It's
Yeah.
true. That's my goal. I'm hoping to get you can do it. It's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay. So talk to me about some of your songs.
Sorry, you can edit this part out.
I
You're
will.
very
I will.
organized and you're very valuable.
I'm so sorry.
To be fair to everyone listening, we got the time wrong, and she's doing this interview a day ahead of when she was supposed to have lots of time to prepare. She's
It's
very good at her job.
impromptu.
It was my fault for messing up the time. I look so organized because I don't have to do anything, and she's there like, oh, I
I
thought
was
I
like,
wrote that.
what? And in true authenticity and kitty fashion, the song slipped my mind. This is also a trigger warning for the upcoming topic. It does contain sensitive information. The song is called Don't Wake Me Up.
Wake me up, and I know why
That's
he sent
it.
that song. Yeah. He sent. So John sent you that one because we were talking about Suicide Month, Suicide
Yes.
Awareness Month. Sorry, I should say. And yeah, so that makes perfect sense. So let's get okay. So everyone, spoiler, and this is a serious spoiler alert. I happen to have a
Sorry.
smile on my face. No, I happen to have a smile on my face because I choose to smile when I'm talking about heavy things because the only other alternative is to just let it be heavy. Um, so this is a heavy topic. So if you're triggered by the concept of actually suicidal thoughts, spoiler alert. After the band split, I was in a band, Sick Puppies. We split. Didn't go well. I'm past it now, but the song was written 6, 7 years ago, right? So and this is a really interesting thing. I did not understand what this evening was until many years later when another guy who I spoke to was like, they're called suicidal fantasies, which is different than suicidal thoughts and tendencies and plans. And I was not aware how many men, maybe women, but I just know that men, because I've spoken to men, have these suicidal fantasies because apparently there's a lot. And I was in this really dark place where the band had split. Everything was bad. Everything was bad. No matter where I turned, I couldn't. My friends had, well, people who I thought were my friends, they had distanced themselves. My wife and my child had gone back to Australia because I had to focus on work and it wasn't financially viable. So she went home and stayed with family while I rebuilt a career. And so I was by myself, and I got this idea for a piano ballad at Guitar Center while I was buying some strings. And then I just left the Guitar Center and went straight back home, and I started working on this song. And the line in the chorus was, "Don't wake me up till life starts making sense, because I've been killing myself again." And it was just this really interesting, like, again, like usually people say I've been killing myself over this thing. It's like I've been killing myself again. And for some reason, when I wrote that lyric, everything just started to flood. Everything became very intense. It was like the verge of a panic attack kind of thing. But because I have enough experience as a songwriter, I was like, okay, you don't, and this is something I tell artists, you don't have to show anyone your songs. You shouldn't stop that. You shouldn't let that stop you from creating something. If something's starting to flow, let it be painful, go through it, and then just put it at the bottom of a drawer and never show anyone. It's like writing a letter when you're angry to someone and just not sending it. So I went through this, I got to the end of the first verse, and I was like, this is, and it was really intense because I was like, I just realized I want to kill myself. I didn't know that's how I felt. And now I'm halfway through a song and I really feel like I should finish it because it kept coming. It just kept coming from wherever. So I did what every responsible adult male does, and I went and got a bottle of vodka and I started drinking my way through it. So, so uh, the thing that's interesting when you hear the track is that I recorded the vocals in 1.5 takes. I recorded the vocals in 1.5 takes, and I don't remember doing it because I was drunk by the time I got to the end of the process. And I recorded it and I tried to recut the vocals for 2 weeks and I couldn't get back to that place. It was a microcosm. And the reason that the song was interesting is because the song isn't about wanting to kill yourself, but it is about wanting to die. And the reason that it was so relevant is because, and this is something that I came to realize most men cannot discuss, they can't bring it up, is that a lot of men want to die, but they don't want to be responsible for it. Mm-hmm. They don't want to be blamed. They don't want to leave their loved ones, but it's just a little too much to take. So they'd like to go to bed, wake up, and have everyone around say, oh no, what a tragedy. He was gone too soon. Damn you, God. It wasn't his fault, but at least I'm free from this pain. And I didn't show it to anyone because I just honestly thought it was the biggest bitch move ever to write a song that was that self-indulgent, to be like, I have a wife and a kid, but I would, if you could just like, if you believe that there's a heaven and a hell and an afterlife and that everyone has their time, you just praying to God, like, can you make my time now? Can it just be now so that that's the end of my run? Can you just, can it be now? Because it'd be so much fucking easier. And it's a really dark, selfish thought. It's really fucking selfish. And so people don't want to talk about it. Do is you drink, you go out with the boys, you fucking wake up the next day and you get on with it. You do what a man does. Grr, brr, right?
Yeah.
And so I had this song and then I showed it to my wife as a joke. And I was like, look at this self-indulgent piece of shit that I wrote. Can you believe it? No one's ever going to like it. She heard it and she was like, that's pretty intense. And she understood it and she knows me very well and she didn't judge me. Mm-hmm. She was like, that is, but it's a great song. And then my neighbor came over. My neighbor's a guy. And she said to my neighbor, show Frank that song. And so I played it to him on the headphones and I'm sitting there, I'm cleaning up dishes or doing whatever so that I don't have to sit there awkwardly while he listens to my song. and then afterwards, he finishes the song and he doesn't say anything. And I'm like, yeah, it's like, he's trying to figure out a way of saying like, dude, you need to go to fucking therapy. Like, this is pathetic. And the thing that shocked me, Kitty, was that he took the headphones off and he paused for a long time. And I was like, is that bad, huh? And he just said, I didn't know anybody else felt that way. And that I immediately was like, well, shit, now I've got to put it on the record. I've got to put it out there because there's probably a lot of other people that feel that way. And now I've already done the work to withhold it, knowing that maybe it's going to help someone because it's that intense. So I put it on the last track of the record, and it actually has been one of the most streamed songs off the record after the 2 singles because it's true. Like, people resonate with that song. And it's just a really good example of you don't have to have the answer within the song. The song doesn't have to say, you feel bad, here's the answer, everything's going to be okay. Sometimes those are good songs. Sometimes it's just, hey, I feel this dark as well. And you can just go, okay, I'm not crazy, or I'm not the most selfish person in the world. It's not abnormal. This happens. Let's just get through it and figure out. And then you can put on, maybe it's time to change, or odd one, put on another song and go, all right, let's figure it out. But to deny that feeling is unproductive. You don't have to label everything with an emotion like, oh, it's not fair and all these things. Like, it's not productive. If you have this emotion and you try to say that didn't happen, it's not productive because it's there. You're better off accepting it, moving through it and going, okay, that happened. Now what? And that's more productive. So you have a logical reason to push through it. And then you can use the song, you can use logic, and you can go, this feels terrible. I can't wait till this is over. Let's just get through this one and go and do whatever else comes next.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's paramount. And the fact that you brought up the men's health is a huge thing because, as you know, the majority of the people that I help, I do women's retreats, but there is this calling for some men that do want to start opening up and kind of going down that road and not doing the standard push down.
And I think it's important for, I've found this after having a son, reading up on it, experiencing it myself, and also coaching some young men in my coaching course. Men, and I cannot find anything online that really talks about this outside of some Anthony Robbins shit. But young men haven't, it's coded in their DNA to want to feel like men, to want to feel like I can provide and I can tackle things, right? And I can rise up and all the man stuff. So when you don't know how to do it, it makes things a lot worse. And so if you just present someone with like songwriting is a great example. When someone's like, I feel like shit and I can't even finish a song about it, and I can't do anything. I'm just nothing. And I'm like, well, why don't you just finish the song, let it suck, and let it be all these horrible emotions that are self-indulgent, that have no structure, and they're just terrible, and get to the end of it just so that you can say you got through it and see what it's like on the other side, and use it as a mechanism, because that's what men do. You got to get through it so you can get past it, and then you can say that's a stepping stone in your process of being a better man, instead of, I don't know what to do, so I'll just stay stuck here. It's like, well, then why don't you just push through and accept that it's going to be painful, because you've read books that men have to deal with pain, right? And you've read books that when they get through the pain, they do X, Y, Z. So why don't you just write a little step-by-step guide on, I don't know what's going to happen, but if I was a big, strong man, I would do this, and then just fucking roll it and just figure it out, because that's the only thing real men do. They had a father figure that taught them at some point, like, cry for 5 minutes. Are you done? Cool. Now let's get back to it, because that's the only option you have. But you need someone to kind of show you that it's going to be okay on the other side. If you don't have someone to show you, you might think you're going to die, and you're not. You're just gonna toughen up a little more.
Yeah, no, I've said, I can help you through it if you want to dip your toes into the emotion, and they go, nope.
Yeah.
So having that song and having things like that does allow some healing there, because then they do feel like someone else feels the same as me. So it's so important. Well, do you have any new things coming up that you want to talk about? I know you're going on tour. Do you have new music coming out?
There's heaps of stuff. All right. So my name is Shim, and I make music, which is why my website is shimmusic.com. And if you go to shimmusic.com, yes, you can follow on the socials, but they're all different bloody names of Shim, Shim Music, Shim More, Official Shim, fucking whatever. So you can follow me on all those. You find them. They've got the blue tick, but it's shimmusic.com. Actually type. Do me a favor, guys. Actually use your fucking thumbs and type into Safari, type into Google instead of just pushing buttons like a monkey. And then everything's going to be up there. So what we're doing is we're going on tour with Anything But Human, Shallow Side, and Chasing the Devil. Curtain Call and John Kuntz has helped put this whole thing together. Shout out to him and thank you very much. And we are going out with a kick-ass band. Jamie Lewis, who's my best friend, is going to be running on the bass. He also teaches bass. So if you're a bass player or musician, you got to come out to the show. We're going to be doing heaps of cool stuff. There's going to be an air hockey tournament on the tour with the radio stations and the fans. It's going to be sick. It's going to be really, really great. So we're doing heaps of dates up the East Coast and the Midwest. And so go to the website and check it out. Please use your thumbs. It's only like 9 characters. Just fucking type it in and go and click on your preferred streaming platform, social media platform. You can follow me there. Okay. Just be a fan and be like, yo, here, I'm going to do what Shim says for 1 second. And he's like, well, he keeps going on about it. Yeah, because it's the difference between you finding me and not finding me in this mess of the internet. So, and that's what we're doing. We're going to have we're playing all the Sick Puppy singles. I'm not shy about it. I find it hilarious when people say, like, are you going to play any Sick Puppy songs? I'm like, you mean my songs that I wrote and sang on? Yeah, I'm going to play my songs. So we're going to be doing You're Going Down and Maybe and War and Odd One and Riptide and all the singles. And All the Same for the ladies. Yes, if all the girls ask me, you can play All the Same? Yes, I'm going to play All the Same. So, we're going to be doing that. And then like a bunch of new songs and a couple of covers. It's going to be sick. It's going to be great. And there's new music coming out at the end of the year and the beginning of next year. We're not stopping. We're just starting.
Back on the wagon. Back on the wagon.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to tell anyone?
No, I'm just happy to be here. Thank you very much
I
for
appreciate you
sharing the
so
time with
much.
me, and thank you for a really good interview about
Yeah, I
meaningful stuff.
appreciate that. I appreciate that. It was really wonderful to meet you. I want to thank Shim for coming in and joining us on The Authentic Life with KL. If you'd like more information about Shim and his music and tour, go to shimmusic.com. If you'd like more information on Kitty Lynne, any of the Kitty Lynne groups, go to kittylynne.com, KITTYLYNNE.com. Have a beautiful day.